In this lesson, we're going to see how we can sketch the model and how we can create our first blockout, which is kind of a draft representation of our idea. Just like a sketch is a rough representation of what we could draw in more details, also the blockout model is something that is really draft. It's the starting point of your modeling. I'm going to show you one technique, but there are also other types of modeling and techniques that we're going to see later. So just to show you here really quick the process that we're going to do. So this is some really basic model, and you can see that we kind of see the blocks, which are pretty rigid and hard-edged and squared. Now we could call this low poly or hard poly modeling. Now this is useful when you need to do like furniture, pieces of furniture like bookshelves, or something that is really hard-edged and rigid, or also architecture. And this one here instead is when you start to get into more organic and soft modeling. And this is could be also called high poly modeling or soft poly modeling. Now, I also place these three different like puppets because I want to show you, well, personally, the difference between working without any reference or working with reference images. So you can see you can be really more precise and more accurate when you use reference image instead of just going there and model without any precise idea. You can also do that, but I think that with this particular type of blocking out technique, it's better to have 2D references. So while in the last lesson we saw how we can import models from websites and how we can then use them as a reference, as an inspiration, or as a base for our modeling. In this video, we're going to develop our own model that we're going to use in the rest of the course. So I just started a new scene, or you can just delete everything that is in your scene at the moment, so you can start fresh new. But I still keeping some of the settings that we did for the viewport and the interface in the other previous lessons. Now, before we continue, let's review the main concepts here, and let's do again a recap of the theory. So when we have low poly, we usually have less details, less quality. When we move to high poly, we definitely have more curviness, curvy models, and we have soft modeling and organic modeling. So the more we want to go into realism and organic shapes, the more we need to increase the subdivisions and also the details that we're going to add. Now, we can also call these hard poly modeling and this one here soft poly modeling. These are kind of synonyms. And you can see here hard poly modeling. If you search for hard poly modeling in Blender, you would see probably something that is more technical, mechanical, and again, like interiors, architecture, furniture. And you can see this one here is actually a thumbnail from the Blender video course, where we focus more on the modeling for architecture, interior design, and also a little bit about sculpting and sculpture, but mainly on the hard poly modeling and the various tools. So we're not going to go too much in depth with this because we already saw this in the other video course. We're going to focus again on the character design, on the digital sculpting. Now, soft poly modeling, we can see that again, there is another thumbnail from the Blender video course, but essentially it's just going from something that is pretty edgy and squared and kind of block out into something softer and softer, which can be done with subdivisions, which is the easiest way you can do it, adding subdivisions, or you can do it also in another way, which I'm going to show you later. So essentially, we are always starting from the same shape, but in this case, we're going to add more polygons. We're going to subdivide it, and we're going to make it softer and smoother. But the starting point is always the hard poly modeling. Now, organic, I think we can define as organic something that is even more soft and even more detailed and like more realistic. Something for animals, characters, and things that are more not less mechanical, less technical, more from the natural world. Now, as I anticipated at the beginning of the video, it's better to use sketches. Sketches will help you to create your character, define your character even before you start modeling. But you can also skip this part if you want. It's just up to you if you want to use it or not, if you want to start with a sketch or not. In this video, I will show you briefly how we can set up a really simple sketch so anyone can do it. The goal here is to go step by step, level by level, so that we can increase the complexity and the level of difficulty together. Now you can see there are some of these that are really nice, and we can see that the author or the artist it's an expert in drawing. So what I want to show you is something that you don't need to be an expert in. So first of all, you can get 2D drawings and sketches from the web. If you don't want to create your own, you can take inspiration from other sketches. This one here, for example, is from FreeSVG, and it's free. You can download it, you can use it, you can take it as an inspiration, just like other type of illustrations and images. And it's better to have, if you want to use it as a reference, it's better to have something that it's in the front view, in the side view, in the back view. So not something that is like in perspective or something like this, because here you need to interpret the image. In this other situation, you have something more defined that you can definitely use for a more accurate design and art. Now let me just go back here. I selected this image because it's kind of showing the process that we're going to make. So we are going to start with something really draft. Either if you're working in 2D or 3D, it's the same thing. So you start with something that is just, kind of a quick idea that you have. And then you start to define it. You start to add, the overall shape, the overall character, and perhaps also some apparel. And then you continue to add more and more details like personality or, physiognomy, anatomy, and so on. So hair and makeup, clothing, and so on. So this is perfectly showing the process. I really like this sketch right here. So the thing we're gonna do also in 3D is starting with something that is called the blockout. Now a blockout model can be done with various techniques. These here have been created with an assembly of different pieces together. But before we're gonna get here, I wanna show you some other techniques. And you can also use this one that we're gonna see in this video and apply it to this next one, but we're gonna focus on this later. I just wanna show you the difference between a blockout model and something that is more like accurate and with more details. So blockout models is not necessarily something that is so defined like this, but could be also really a kind of a blocky model with squares and cubes instead of all these nice and soft surfaces. But you can get here using again the hard poly modeling and then the soft poly modeling. Now what I want to suggest, again, I already suggested this in the previous video, study the anatomy of your model. If it's a human, study the human anatomy, try to understand the length of the feet and the bones, the arms, the legs, the various muscles, and so on. So let's start with some sketching. Now, sketching the model can be really hard, but I kind of simplified at my best what you can do, even if you're never draw anything in your life. Now, first of all, we need to add the image in your scene. So I use the layout interface, and I am now in the front view. And this is how you can just drag and drop your references. So either if you created your own, or if you get it from the web, you can just click and drag. And then you can adjust the size. You can click on the edges, you can click on the corners, and so on. So this is the same exact image. I've taken this with my smartphone after I sketched this on a piece of paper. Now let's start with the basic. Let's use here the annotate feature in Blender, and I will also use stabilize stroke. This way you can sketch also in Blender, even if you're using your mouse like I'm doing right now. So basic is something that it's really simple to do.